In this video, we're going to take a look at writing absolute value inequalities from word problems. So when we write absolute value inequalities, we look at something we call tolerance. So tolerance is sort of like a little bit of wiggle room around an absolute value, which is our inequality. So our tolerance formula in basic terms is an actual amount minus an ideal amount. The absolute value of that is less than or equal to what we call our tolerance. So let's look at three good examples of this. Example 1 says you left your wallet in your car. A friend is texting you to go to the movies. You will need $14.95 for a ticket. You think you have $20 in your wallet, give or take $5. Write and solve an absolute value inequality representing the possible amount of money in your wallet. Can you afford to go to the movie? Okay, so let's set up a nice absolute value inequality to represent this situation. So your actual amount you're not sure of, so we're going to put that as just our X. The ideal amount you might have in your wallet would be $20. And then that's give or take $5, so that's our tolerance. So we've set up our formula, and now we just need to solve it the same way we would normally solve an absolute value inequality. So we're going to set up two inequalities. One kind of looks like what we're given, minus the absolute value symbols. And then one, you got to change the sign and change the direction of your inequality. So then we just solve each one of those. So we get x is less than or equal to 25. Let's add 20 over here. So we get x is greater than or equal to 15. So in our wallet, ideally we're going to have greater than or equal to $15 and less than or equal to $25. So if that is true, we would afford to be able to go to the movies. So let's say yes. I can afford to go to the movies. Okay, so we set it up right here, we solved it right here, and got our solution to help us figure out that we can afford to go to the movies. Let's take a look at another one. A candy manufacturer puts 240 pieces of candy into each bag. The bag can be off by 8 pieces. Write an absolute value inequality that displays the acceptable amount of candy pieces that can be in a bag. So we don't know the actual amount, but ideally there are 240 pieces per bag. And then that could be off by as much as 8 pieces of candy. So there's our inequality. Now let's write, it just says to write an absolute value inequality. So in this case, we don't have to solve it. This does display the acceptable amount of candy pieces that can be in a bag. But just for practice, let's go ahead and solve and get our compound inequality statement. So let's do x minus 240 is less than or equal to 8, and x minus 240 is greater than or equal to negative 8. It won't take long to solve and get a more definite amount. So then we get x is less than or equal to 248. And if we add 240 over here on the right, we get x is greater than or equal to 232. So our compound inequality, if we had been asked to write one, would be that x is greater than or equal to the smaller number of 232 and less than or equal to the larger number. So it would be somewhere in between there. And that's called a compound inequality. But again, in this case, we actually were not asked to find that. So I'm just doing a little extra work. We were just asked to write the absolute value inequality. I just wanted to show you a little extra. So let's look at one more example. Number 3 says a company that makes golf balls needs to ship bags of balls that contain at most 696 balls and at least 584 balls. Write an absolute value inequality and compound inequality to represent the range of golf balls that will be in a bag. So this one actually gives us the compound inequality first. So like this statement in the last example is what we're going to start with in the third example. So x is at least 584, and at most 696. Oops, that's supposed to be a 6. So we have that x is between 584 and 696. So we need to figure out what would be the ideal amount. And the ideal amount would be the average of these two, because it would be the middle, exactly in the middle of those two. So let's do 584 plus 696 divided by 2 is our ideal amount. So our actual amount we don't know. Let's set up our inequality the same way we normally do. So we have actual minus ideal, just like we wrote up above, is less than or equal to, and then we need our tolerance amount. So your tolerance is how far away from the middle these two numbers would be. So the easy way to figure that out is take them and subtract them. Just find the actual difference between them. So that is 112. Then divide that by 2 to find exactly like how far it would be to get back to the middle if you went from each number. So that is 56. So now it said we've done most of the work. We have our compound inequality right here, and we have our absolute value equation. We just need to clean it up because you don't want to leave it so unsimplified. So let's write x and then actually calculate the 584 plus 696 all divided by 2, which gives us 640. And that just gives us a nicer version of the absolute value inequality. And we've done everything we need to for that one. So that's 3 good examples that are all a little bit different than one another.